Welcome to this edition of the Native News Update. I'm your host for today's program, Paul DeMain. Many of the stories and information found here can be found at our website at IndianCountryNews.com. Here's the news from the day from the Associated Press and other Native American news sources. A man who stole from a casino in Wolf Point, Montana must repay $3,500 and spend 4 years on probation. A federal judge in Great Falls, Montana, imposed a sentence on 50-year-old David Campbell of Wolf Point, who had pled guilty to theft from an Indian gaming establishment. A 2007 audit of the books of the Silver Wolf Casino revealed losses in 5 figures. Campbell attributed the losses to machine malfunctions, but later told the FBI he was responsible for about $3,500 in missing money. Another employee was sentenced earlier on federal charges. Investigators in a Grand Island, Nebraska insurance business suspected in a Ponzi scheme have been told they'll have to wait to get their money back. That's if their losses can be recouped at all. First American's insurance service and its 3 principals are being investigated by state and federal authorities. First Americans filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection on January 12th, claiming between $100 and $500 million in liabilities. A bankruptcy hearing was held last Friday in U.S. Bankruptcy Court in Lincoln, Nebraska. More than 150 investors turned out to see whether they'd get their money back. First American's attorney Robert Craig said in court that the bankruptcy is too complex and the debt too big for any of the hundreds of people who invested in promissory notes to get money for their claims. Craig also said that if the company is liquidated, there will be little money left for those investors. Last month, First American's 3 principals, James Mascots, Stella Lavia, and Kenneth Moton, agreed to have their insurance licenses revoked. By doing so, they did not admit or deny to any of the allegations they now face. The New Mexico Parole Board has established conditions for the release next month of a man convicted in one of the state's most notorious drunken driving cases. Gordon House, a Navajo Oneida, was convicted of 4 counts of homicide for the 1992 Christmas Eve head-on collision that killed Melanie Cravens, her 3 young daughters, and severely injured her husband. Because of time off for good behavior, House will be released March 6th after serving nearly half of his 22-year sentence. House will be placed for 2 years in the Community Corrections Program, which involves a high level of supervision. The board set the conditions during a closed hearing February 20th after hearing from House and relatives of the victims. On the night of the crash, House, then 32 years old, a criminal justice graduate who worked with troubled American Indian teens, was driving his pickup truck the wrong way on Interstate 40 west of Albuquerque, New Mexico. He drove that way for 12 miles, at times reaching speeds of 90 miles an hour, until he collided with the Craven car. He killed Melanie, 31, and her daughters Candace, 9, Aaron, 8, and Casey Woodward, 5. House admitted to drinking more than 7 beers that day, but said a migraine headache caused him to become disoriented and drive the wrong direction. The Supreme Court on February 24th limited the federal government's authority to hold land in trust for tribes, a victory for states seeking to impose local laws and control over the development on Indian lands, and which may have implication for a number of tribes recognized by the federal government after the 1934 Indian Reorganization Act. The U.S. government argued that the law allows it to take land into trust for tribes, regardless of when they were recognized, but Justice Clarence Thomas said in his majority opinion that the law unambiguously refers to those tribes that were under the federal jurisdiction when the law was enacted. The ruling comes in a case involving the Narragansett tribe in Rhode Island and a 31-acre tract of land. At issue was whether the land in Charleston, Rhode Island should be subject to state law, including a prohibition on casino gambling, or whether the parcel should be governed by tribal and federal law. Coal has proved to be a valuable resource for the Navajo Nation, providing tens of millions of dollars in revenue each year to the tribe and jobs to its people on a reservation where more than half of the workforce is unemployed. But the Navajo Nation contends it could have received up to $600 million more in royalties over the years had the U.S. government not conspired with a coal company to cheat the tribe. The federal government says the tribe's contentions are unsupported. The tribe's lawsuit claiming that the United States breached its trust duties was argued before the U.S. Supreme Court February 24th for the second time since it was filed more than 15 years ago. The U.S. government is looking for a second favorable ruling from the High Court, while the Navajo Nation wants a lower court's rulings that found the tribe is entitled to damages upheld. The Supreme Court handed the federal government a victory in 2003 when it ruled the Department of Interior had protected the tribe's interest under the Indian Mineral Leasing Act. A ruling later by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit Court kept the lawsuit alive. The court said the Navajos had the right to present the argument that a network of laws not considered by the Supreme Court were broken by the government, and the tribe is deserving of damages from the United States. The appeals court sided with the Navajo Nation in the most recent decision in the case, and the U.S. government appealed to the Supreme Court. The government said the appeals court decision is at odds with the High Court decision and it should be reversed. Democratic lawmakers are proposing a bill that would require the state of Wisconsin to investigate complaints about American Indian mascots in Wisconsin schools. If the complaints are justified, the State Department of Public Instruction would order the schools to drop the mascot or logo within a year or face fines up to $1,000 a day. A fiscal estimate attached to the bill says that about 40 state schools use American Indian names, nicknames, logos, or mascots. The estimate says costs to replace existing uniforms and other supplies would vary from school district to school district. A northern Minnesota Chippewa band is holding a celebration this week to mark the opening of its new urban office in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Chairman Kevin Lisi of the Boys Fort Band said the office will give those members who live in the urban area better access to programs and services and a stronger voice in tribal government. Plans call for the office to offer health care and social services and emergency assistance when needed, while also acting as a clearinghouse for information on housing, education, and employment opportunities. The Phoenix Indian Center has a silent auction coming up. The organization, established in 1947 and serving American Indians in the Phoenix area, will come together on April 4th during the 26th annual Phoenix Indian Center Gala and Native American Art Auction. It will feature pieces by artists such as Harry Fonseca, Juan Quick-to-See Smith, Shanto Begay, Steve Yazzie, and Clifford Beck, to name a few. The mission of the Indian Center continues to promote individual self-sufficiency of American Indians living in the Maricopa County area of Arizona. And that is the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. We want to thank our underwriters for helping us with this broadcast today, and thank you for joining in with us to view. Stay tuned again for the next edition of the Native News Update.